So we're already working on the TYM 4820, but it's not what you think. Well, hey there, hobby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peaks Peak. My name's Lucas, and we're sharing our hobbies on 38 acres in eastern Kentucky. And when it gets cold, a lot of times I get inside and find things to do in the shop and stay warm. And that's what we've got today. And the project that we have is to install third function on our new TYM 4820. Now, we got the kit from TYM to install on this tractor. Come on back here and I'll show you what all comes in the kit. So I got everything laid out here just so I could kind of get some direction on what we're going to be doing today. I think it's a pretty simple, straightforward process, but we're going to start with the wiring system. Of course, you got a relay here that hooks to your battery, so you got a fuse link, positive and negative. This is going to run up closer to the firewall of the tractor so that you can plug in your controls. For controls, it comes with a new handle with a button on it. Now, the fact that this has one button on it tells me that this is not a true third function, but a diverter system like the one that we have on our Kubota right now. I'm just fine with that. I've never used a true third function. This is what I'm used to. So in fact, right now, I don't even have any attachments for the tractor that are going to use this, but we'll get us a grapple and things like that. So this is going to come in very handy. And then the last cord that you have is just one plug that goes into the actual diverter valve, and the other plug goes into that wiring harness. All of that is pretty simple and straightforward. Now, the diverter valve, which is going to mount up on the front of the loader arms, actually has all of these connections that still need to be assembled. So you've got all the pieces there. So we'll be using Teflon tape, I guess, and screwing all these in. So we'll figure that part out. And then we have 4 hoses. What I'm going to do first is go ahead and get the wiring situation set up. Then we'll dig closer into the instructions and figure out what hoses go where and start making those connections. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is right here. We took that nut off, and we're going to install this right there. That's where the instructions show it best fits so that it will reach everything we need to reach. I am not going to put any zip ties or anything on until we are finished and we have everything connected. That way I know my wire routing and everything works well. So the next thing is we've got to hook up to the battery, and I'm going to get all of that set up. Actually, I think it's going to be fine to just go ahead and hook up to the battery because it's fused and there aren't really any other connections that are anything more than plug and play. So might as well go ahead and hook that up. Now, this right here actually peels back so that you can put this wire right inside there, and then it will be tucked away just like these other wires. Now, to create a little bit more space to work, I went ahead and turned my forks down to hold the loader up and raised it up so that I can get in there. I also went ahead and scraped them on the floor. That way you can see how white the floor used to be. Who ever heard of a white floor in a shop anyway? Okay, now on your battery connections, the instructions say you have to cut these covers, but you do not. You can feed the wire right in through the back side, hook it up. The positive has a small end, so you can hook it right there onto that small bolt. The neutral side or ground side, it has a bigger end on it, so you can put it right in this top bolt, which is a 13mm head. Same deal, you don't have to cut the cover. Just feed it through the back side and your factory. So we have the first part of the connections in place. No zip ties yet. We'll wait until we get everything routed properly before we tie it all down. All right, guys, so I fed me a piece of electric fence wire. Oh, hang on a minute. Let me turn off Mike Morgan. I watch YouTube videos while I'm working out here in the shop. All right, so I got me a piece of electric fence wire fed up from the bottom because all of the cables and wires are run inside the fender in a channel inside the fender. So I'm going to pull this wire down through here. That way we can keep a nice clean install here. And we'll see how this goes. There's our wire coming out the bottom. So that worked perfectly. Nice and easy. Except if I had any brains at all, I would have fed it through that first. So now I got to pull it back through. All right, let's unwrap this and we'll do it again in a minute. I never can seem to get everything exactly right on my first try, but we usually get it. All right, so what I've got to do is feed this wire through this boot because I cannot feed the handle through the boot. All right, now we're back where we should have been. All right, we got her taped up. Now let's pull her wire through here. Man, that just went way easier than I expected it to. Got our boot back in position. I'm telling you, man, electric fence wire and electrical tape. Handyman's secret weapon. All right, guys, so I ran into my first little snag in comparison to the directions, and that has to do with the routing of this wire and the fact that the wire is not quite long enough to mount the relay where they said to mount the relay. Now, you can get the wire there and get it connected, but the problem is it's going to be right up against your hydrostat pedal assembly and also like stretched tight. And I didn't like that. So I moved the relay. So I took the relay from this spot right here and put it on the bottom of the fuse box where that mounts. Now, I'm also not crazy about that because what it does is creates a situation with this wire running to the battery where this is going to have to run up here over the top of this. It'll be fine. We'll just use some zip ties and get it all in position. But that's where it's going to have to go to make the wires the safest, to make sure that we don't rub holes in our wires and stuff. So we'll finish zip tying all that up and getting it in place. But that's pretty well in position now. And I think we are about ready to mount our hydraulic manifold and start making those connections. All right, so next we're taking these loose. Pay no attention to Brock's voice in the background. His Lane Shark video is on now. All right, so you just reuse those two bolts. There you go. Okay, so we got this mounted. Now, this connection for the actuator will spin, so you can turn it back here to where your connection will be protected on the back side. And also, note the way that this plate, I had to flip this plate over because I installed it upside down. Directions show this mounted in this direction here with this out to this side. So when I was putting this on, I noticed that there was a little gap there. And I realized that's because there is a weather seal that goes on here. All right, now let's put some fittings on here. We're going to get ready to assemble all of the fittings on our diverter valve. Now, to quickly explain what goes where. So you have these little nipples, I guess I'll call them, that feed into the diverter valve so that your hoses can hook up to them. So this kind of flared end is going to be what the hose hooks up to. The side with the O-ring is going to go into your diverter valve. So you're going to take these, and you don't need any Teflon tape on these because they have an O-ring. Okay, just like that. And then you're going to do the same thing on the back side. You have two more of those. Now, for your hydraulic connections, you have a couple of these 90s. One has a flare fitting that fits these nipples here. You'll have a short one and a tall one because they'll be kind of one raised over the other so that you can set them up like that. And these will go on there, you know, like so. Now, you do use Teflon tape on the part that gets this female fitting here. So we will get those ready. We are going to get ready to install the female hydraulic connections, and with the Teflon tape, you want to make sure that you wrap it clockwise because as you're screwing on the fitting, you want to make sure that it doesn't unravel. If you wrap it clockwise, then when you turn this clockwise, it's going to be turning the same direction that the tape is threaded, and that will make sure that the tape stays on. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we got 1 1/16 inch for our fitting. All right, should be snug enough. That's a 7/8 as well. So we can go ahead, put that one on. Now these do not need Teflon tape because they are those flared type hose fittings. Okay guys, so really and truly, this is one of the simplest installs that I have seen. It's a great setup. What I have done is I went ahead and loosely connected these hoses. That way you can kind of see where they're going to route to. So basically the long hoses are going to go back there, and the short hoses, if I can get it turned, there we go, are going to end up hooking right in here. And what I've got to do now is unhook these, which are going to have hydraulic fluid in them. So I got me a bucket over here to try to catch what I can of that, and we'll make these final connections and then tighten everything up and finish our cable management. We're going to disconnect this bucket tilt on the right-hand side. There's a T right here, and what we're going to do is actually take that T loose, and we're going to connect these onto that T so that we can hook hoses. A couple of the hoses, let's see, we'll have one of these hoses and one of these hoses hooked to each one. So we'll go ahead and make those connections, and I'll show you which one goes where. And to give you an idea of the fluid, you can see as I take this loose that we got, you know, little drip going there, nothing major. We will get this connected here, and I'm going to just kind of loosely connect everything, and then we will figure out. I may want to take these T's and turn them, and actually this left-hand side off of the diverter is the one that's going to go right here, but I'm going to have to take this one loose first. Okay, learn from my lesson here and set your loader down on the ground before you take this loose. Otherwise, you're going to spray fluid everywhere as your loader leaks down. Ask me how I know. And I didn't even have the camera rolling for it. But yeah, I made a fine mess. We've got everything connected. I want to start tightening down. Take these loose from each end. That way you can spin the hose and get it where you need it. Next, we have to take those longer hoses and run them back and connect them back there. All right, now guys, in order to get to these here, you are going to have to bend one of these lines a little bit out of the way just to be able to get these connected or disconnected, as it may be. It's actually not that bad once you get in here. And what you're doing is connecting these soft hoses directly, and then we're bypassing these steel hoses. So they gave you caps to put on the steel lines. Now, once I get all these tightened up, then I'll show you how it all buttons back up, because it's all going to be nice and neat, and then I'll kind of explain real quick how it all works. Now it's time for some zip ties, and also making sure everything is tight and not leaking. Moment of truth. Okay, so I'm going to pull the tractor forward so I'm in a new spot so that hopefully I can see any drips or leaks or anything. Or hopefully I won't see any drips or leaks or anything. Okay. Well, so far so good. I don't see anything spraying. I do think maybe I see a drip there. Put some pressure on them. Yeah. Okay, so the diverter button works, all the power works, everything works. And I don't see any leaks. Woohoo! All right, let's run some zip ties. All right, guys, so I'm going to take you through and I'm going to show you the routing of all of my hoses and wires, and you can critique and tell me things I could have or should have done better. Or if you see anything that's going to cause a problem, call it out. But I got everything hooked up, everything working, and I like the way everything is routed. So I'm going to show you all of that, but I also will say they provided everything I needed in this kit except for tools. You need a 3/4 inch wrench, a 7/8 inch wrench, and 12 millimeter sockets and Phillips screwdriver. And that's about it. Maybe a straight screwdriver to pry the little plastic connectors out of the loader arm trim, but it's all really simple. I probably spent about 3 hours on this, just kind of trying to take my time and document it and everything too. So it's a real simple, clean install, and anybody could do this. It's not difficult at all. So let me show you what we got. Okay, so I left the zip tie tags hanging so that you'll be able to see those. Now, of course, you got your short hoses on the front, your long hoses on the back, your connections on top. And with this connector right here, what I did was I ran the wire up under the hoses here, and then I used a zip tie through this hole right here to kind of keep it back here so that it stays back and doesn't hang out here and get caught on the bumper or anything like that. Coming out the other side, I went ahead and hooked it to the hydraulic lines and then ran it in behind the hydraulic lines right here. And I'll probably actually put one more zip tie right there to keep it up off of everything that's moving through there. I zip tied these hoses together right here and right here on my bucket level, just so the bucket level indicator doesn't rub on those hoses. And then one more zip tie up here, hooking it to the steel lines, just to keep everything tight against the loader so that when we're doing loader work, the hoses don't hang out there and rub on stuff and wear a hole in them. Okay, so I got a zip tie on the steel lines there holding that wire in place. Next, we come out of the battery box with our wiring right here through that hole. I zip tied it right here next to this connection just under that radiator hose. Now, in order to reach where we hooked our relay, we had to go over the top of the oil filter housing. So we are actually zip tied right to an oil supply hose. I don't really like that, but it is protected by a wire loom, so I think it'll be okay. Lastly, we have our relay at the bottom of the fuse box here with this connection coming out from under where the pedal assembly is. And this one is the one you will disconnect if you ever take your loader off. And of course, when you close the hood, everything's routed right through there and, good to go. And last but not least, where we're coming around this pedal assembly and we have moving parts back in there, I ran this wire right up near that front glass, right up next to the front edge of this, and zip tied it to this hydraulic line right here to keep it tight. And then it runs straight across here. and into the fender. So we're good to go there. Oh, I thought of one more cable routing tip that I wanted to share with you because this was pretty slick. So you have that wire that's running from the diverter up front, and it has to come all the way back here and connect by the firewall back here. Well, I was able to actually feed that wire in to this kind of UV loom here and up over the top, and it comes out right here and through this so that it drops right back in there and connects. And if you're ever unhooking your loader, of course, this is going to have to unhook too, so it's right there where you won't forget it. So really and truly, a nice clean install. Oh, I see one more place where I got to put some zip ties. All right, guys, man, this has been fun. I think we're in business. Now listen, I've got stuff coming where we'll get to try this out. But for today, this is going to do it. Until next time, get outside and enjoy God's creation, just like I'm going to do today. Y'all have a good day.